Hey guys, Dr. Minardi here, bringing you all things STEM. From my journey to yours, we are on an adventure together. Today, we are so fortunate to have a very special guest with us. Let's all welcome to the stage, Lainie. Hey, Lainie, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I'm
All's good.
doing well. Good. Yeah, no, we're so excited to have you. So Lainie Mataras is the Senior Director of the Consultant Architecture and Design Group at Planar, a global leader in visualization technology. In this role, Mataras leverages her extensive professional network to foster relationships with industry partners and further develop the company's consultant and architecture and design programs. With 30 years of experience in the audiovisual and digital signage industry, Mataras worked as a regional sales manager for the consultant industry at Sapphire Marketing, where she worked for 14 years. Prior to that, she held a technical sales role at Crestron, where she worked for a decade. Mataras was a board member of Waveit, an organization created by and for women in the AV/IT industries, and the Avixa Women's Council. So again, welcome, Lainie. We're just so thrilled to have you.
Awesome.
And the first question that we usually ask our guests is, we can obviously glean a lot from your bio, but tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Oh, great. So it's been a great journey. I mean, I've been 30 plus years now. I forgot the last 5. So 35 years, I still feel like I'm 20 something in the AV industry. And it's been a wild ride. I've seen a lot of changes. I didn't expect to go into this industry. I was looking to go more into the finance industry, but I don't regret anything that I've done and accomplished. And I look forward to, I have many more years left. I kind of looking forward to what's going out there for me in the next 5 to 7 years. So.
Oh, that's so exciting. So tell us a little bit about, I guess, you started off in finance, and I remember our first conversation was very much pertaining to that. And then you switched. And so tell us a little bit about that pivot.
So I graduated from Lehigh University in Bethlehem with a degree in economics, a bachelor's of science in economics, which is a STEM degree. And I was planning on going into the banking industry. I was following in the footsteps of my father. My brother was in the banking industry. It just was a very finance-oriented family. And I graduated in a downturn economy. So not finding the jobs that I really wanted, I went to, the help wanted ads. Back then, it was not the internet. It was actually a newspaper that you had to look at and read a lot, the fine print to get a job. So I found a job at Crestron Electronics, and it was definitely not an executive level job or a C-suite job. It was very entry level. And I took a chance and applied. So, and the rest is history from there, but it was really kind of daunting being graduating with an economics degree and then having to go into a manufacturing facility that's full on factory workers, not the swankiest of accommodations, not what you would look at as a New York City banking opportunity, like what your desk would be like there. I was literally on a manufacturing floor doing customer service for my first job.
So that gets me to thinking, though, what were the skills that you garnered throughout your bachelor's degree that then were maybe even translatable to that helped you along the way?
I think the degree, what I did in college, not, separate from graduating with a degree, I also had extracurricular activities. I was once in a sorority. I formed Women in Business at Lehigh. And I think mostly those skills and just the fortitude of getting through your schoolwork prepared me for getting through a manufacturing facility and learning a new language. I mean, you went from math to control system programming code and advanced control systems, and touch panel design, so graphical user interface design, and things I was never exposed to. So I just took one day at a time, and I think that's what I did in college. You get through freshman year, you get through sophomore year, the curriculum gets harder and harder, and so does your work experience. You start and it gets harder and harder. So kind of just try to be very mindful of being in the process of learning.
No, I love that answer because I think a couple of our guests have alluded to that. It's you don't necessarily have to have a career path that aligns well with your educational path.
Yeah.
But you also, throughout that educational path, you also have different opportunities in which you can build soft skills or other perhaps hard skills.
Yeah, exactly. I think in any job that you do, you have to have people skills. You have to have a sort of level of empathy for who you're and joy and excitement in what you're doing. So if I didn't truly love this company, Crestron, I wouldn't have been successful. I wouldn't have leaned in and really grown myself in the AV industry in general. I probably would have hopped out and been in a different industry. But that experience of meeting new people and exciting new technology that was evolving so quickly just really caught my attention, and I learned a lot really fast. And I was one of few women in the industry, so that was kind of appealing as well, to be kind of a pioneering in Crestron as one of the few women in customer facing role. And so I just found the whole thing exciting to do.
No, I love that. And I'm curious, your career at Crestron evolved to technical sales then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that.
So I loved working with customers, and I was really one of their customer facing people for Crestron. So a lot of phone work, a lot of getting to know the accounts. And then I always had this desire to do more. And the only way to really do more or to grow really in the industry was to get outside the company. And so the technical sales was an actual first step into that. So that was the more design centric projects, working with specific customers. I kind of honed in on the consultant marketplace. And I also found a mentor who was a woman who was doing outside sales. So I kind of took the relationships I was forming inside Crestron and then went and spoke to this woman mentor, and she took me everywhere. So I got to see the clients outside of the company as well as working with them inside. And I think that if I didn't take that first step and find a mentor to bring me outside the company, I might have stayed too long in an inside role, and I wouldn't probably be here where I am now. So I really owe a lot to my mentor, Marla Suttenberg. She was great. And she taught me a lot, and she introduced me to a lot of clients, and I have those relationships today, and I'm still in touch with Marla as well. So.
And I know you're going to talk a little bit more about mentoring at later on. For those maybe not sure about the AV industry or what even it is, could you just give like a little bit of a primer to that?
Sure. So the AV industry, if you look at the places you've been exposed to, so for maybe people who are still in higher ed in colleges and universities, if you look around that classroom, you see a projector and a display, you have speakers, there's teleconferencing. That's all audiovisual. It's building that experience for you to learn your schoolwork in a more efficient way. And then if you translate that, you graduate college and you go into the corporate space or lab space or hospital space. There's tech all around you, whether it's the display in the lobby having the digital signage, or whether it's, again, in the operating room and there's a microphone system or an emergency notification system. AV hits every part of your world. And sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. So it's kind of that mystical magic that makes meetings happen. And these poor AV people who sit day in and day out and design these systems to not be seen, but to improve your life. And that's audiovisual.
When I was at a previous organization, I always thought of AV as huge events.
Yeah.
Huge event spaces where the speakers had to be simultaneously working, and then all of the lights displays and the shows and
Sure.
all of that, you know. But it could be to the smallest event, like you were comparing to at a classroom.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing there is that there's so much basic sciences that are activated in that. You know,
Oh
there's
yeah.
acoustical regimen, there is the technology, there is the chemistry of what is actually happening within the visuals. It's so fascinating to me. The amalgamation of pretty much everything in STEM really
Sure.
comes alive in AV.
It does. It does. And we have our own set of standards that you have to adhere to, and that changes too as the technology increases. You know, I'm working in the visual display end of the business, and you have sensors, and you have creative content, and you have beautiful LED video walls, and that is a different world of AV. And in the world of AV that you were talking about, that rental and staging and live event, that's where some of the stuff that I'm doing now is really coming into play. And then taking it one step further, you know, AV is for all, right? So to talk about inclusion, we need to make sure that everyone's having a unique user experience, an inclusive user experience. And you need to be conscious of that with AV. So does somebody have visual impairity? Can they see the screen? Do we have to make accommodations for that? Is there a hearing impaired? Is somebody neurodiverse? Is the content going to trigger a reaction that you don't want? Is the signage appropriate for all the people coming into the building? So it's taking that tech knowledge and also taking the human aspect of that and combining it to make a great experience for everyone. I think that's overlooked in AV, that it's just, you know, inputs and outputs and HDMI and USB-C. It's way more than that. It's everything combined.
No, absolutely. And there's a
Yeah,
huge engineering component to it, not just from
totally.
the mechanical, but also an electrical
Yeah,
piece, which is it's fascinating to me because there's also the, you know, like what you were talking about is you have to know your customer, you have to know them exceptionally well in order to actually deliver a solution that is sufficient for them.
sure.
Um, so talk to us a little bit about your evolution from Crestron to Sapphire Marketing and then to Planar.
Sure, sure. So Crestron was a great stepping stone for me to, again, know the industry, get to know the industry. There are a leader in the AV automation control system world. So how lucky and fortunate for me that I got to have my first career in AV at Crestron. And then to go into outside sales, I had to leave Crestron. All the outside salespeople were external AV technical sales reps. So at that point, Sapphire Marketing hired me to be a technology sales rep. And I had a dealer channel that I called on to sell a variety of products outside of just Crestron. It was maybe a projector line, a screen line, a sound masking line, a microphone line, a display line. So I had to take all these disparate pieces, these disparate lines, and I would try to form a solution to put as many of those products in one single sale. And so you would look at it holistically. And here I have a corporate conference room. What can I put in that room that makes sense for the client? You never want to jam the wrong technology in there, but you want to be able to represent all those lines well. So I had to have a knowledge about everything, whether it was audio, video, cable distances, fiber, copper, you name it. It was a world that I never was exposed to. And so I had to ramp up my knowledge really fast.
It's a crazy thing to think about, having the ability for the technology aspect, but also be able to interface then with the customers to
Oh
say
gosh.
and to convey to them, no, this is why you need this, or this is why this is connected, or this is, things like that. So can you talk a little bit about sort of those
Sure.
experiences?
I think that's a great point. So when you go into a new client, and you're technical. So I'm not an engineer, so I'm not technical. I'm just a salesperson, but I have a technical prowess. But when you go to a new client, you want to not talk about the black box experience. You kind of want to talk to them about, like, hey, you have this problem or you have this need. Let's talk about what that need is and try to flush that out, as opposed to saying, okay, I have this black box and it has this many inputs and that many outputs, and it can solve this one aspect of your room challenge or need. I think that people who are technical that go into a sales role often are at a disadvantage than a person who's not as technical going into a sales role, because they see the room differently or they see the client differently. And I think I always looked at, what can I solve how can I make your life easier? How does AV make your life easier? And these are the 5 things that you might need to make it easier. And maybe they'll buy 4 of them from me, but I heard them as a client of what they needed from me, not me forcing products down their throat. And I think it's important that we always step back and say, gosh, how do I make this improved experience for the user, as opposed to how do I make my quota? And I think if you lead with that, everything else follows. And I've always done that, and everything else has followed.
No, that's precisely right. And I think it's interesting because we were just talking about hard versus soft skills. And, if you're a salesperson, you have exceptional soft skills, but you may not have necessarily the technological prowess, as you said. But that's something that you can learn. That's a hard skill. But if you're going at it from the other opposite way, it's a little bit harder because you may not have a personality that's inclined to be interfacing with customers.
Sure. Yeah, I think that you can get so into the widgets and lose the face of the client. And then if you can't read that person's face, you can't pivot. So if I'm having a conversation, I'm really heavy into my soft skills, I can look and see if it resonates with somebody. If I'm going down a rabbit hole and I'm getting expressionless behavior from their face, I'm like, okay, shift that comment, or that's really sensitive. If I get a negative body language, I'm very much into reading my room and to figure out how they're interacting with what I'm saying, and posturing. So I think it's really important that if you're technical, not technical, you always have to work on your soft skills.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially in a sales role, or in the potential of thinking if you want to pursue a sales role. Um, Talking about soft skills to some extent, let's return to the topic of being a woman in AV. And how has that been? How has that treated you? Good, bad, ugly? And then let's also talk a little bit about your mentors, because I'm sure
Awesome.
that's a point of positivity.
So you have an hour. Now I'm joking. So being a woman in AV, I mean, it's a male dominated industry. When I started 30 years ago, it was definitely a male dominated industry. The numbers have improved for women. But if you look at, and what we're trying to do, the women in AV, Wave It organizations with a VIXA, what we're trying to do is bring more women in and show that you don't have to be an inside role or an admin role. You can actually be C-suite and higher executive. There's a path for women now. Before, there was no path for women. If you looked at how the major firms were organized, there were hardly any women in AV in a C-suite position or an executive level position. So there's been definite growth, and it's a great time to enter into AV for those reasons. My path has been challenging. I could not say that it hasn't been challenging. I face what other people face in other industries, the sexual harassment, um, the talking down to. If there's a man and a woman in the room and it's a majority of men in the room, who are they looking to for answers? Is it the woman or is it the man? So trying to earn the respect. And I worked on that in my own way, earning respect from the people by responding in the proper way for a salesperson, quick, educated, concise. Um, Speed is great. A salesperson has to have speed. I didn't ignore simple requests. I've always I always try to be the best performer I can. Sometimes overachieving, just so I can get to the same point where my male counterparts are. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it and saying it was an easy ride. It was not. But I enjoyed everything about it. Even the bad parts was a learning experience for me. And I use those situations as ways to tell people you may experience this and this is how you can overcome it. And you shouldn't be nervous to say, hey, I don't like how that behavior is. Or I want my voice to be heard. So I think it's an awesome time for women because women are advocating for ourselves and men are advocating for us too. Because diversity in the workplace brings a whole nother set of a world of experience. It's not a single voice anymore.
I think that's so powerful. There's a point of resiliency that you have to learn, but you also have to embrace. Like
Yeah.
it's just part of life that you have to do it. I remember I went to a physics conference and I was one of 6 women who were in the room of over 120 people. And it was literally, you could count them on, 2 hands. And it felt icky to me.
Yeah.
But so what? It's like,
Yeah.
nope, you were still there, you were still presenting. And it's just part of life. And so I think it's also it's not industry agnostic. There are some women dominated industries, obviously, but there are a lot still male dominated industries. And so to go in with your eyes wide open are key.
Yeah. And then to have confidence, I mean, it's intimidating. I can't say that I walked into every room, felt like 1,000%. But I found allies. If I was uncertain about a topic going into a meeting, I would call up my allies and say, hey, I need to quick learn something so I don't sound not too smart in the meeting. So I definitely, I think I over prepared in the early stages. I think now I know who my clients are. I can speak to a room. They know who I am. I've earned a reputation of being somebody in the industry. And I think that if you just keep at it and chip a little bit away at it, you'll get far. It may feel like you're not, but you are.
So let's talk a little bit about mentors, because I think mentors help you along that path. They could be older than you, they could be younger than you, they could be a whole range of different things and attributes. So tell us a little bit about not only the personification of your mentors, or maybe even instantiations of how they have helped you throughout your career.
I have all different age group mentors, and I have mentors for. There's a saying: you have friends for a reason, friends for a season, friends for a lifetime. You have mentors for a reason, mentors for a season, and mentors for a lifetime. And I think that there's different aspects of you as an individual in the workplace that you can have a specific mentor for to get you through those stages of your life. So. I referenced Marla. She was my first mentor. She was a woman. She was in sales, and I wanted to get into sales. So I was gleaming processes and procedures from her on how to be a woman in sales, how to even dress like a woman in sales without coming off a certain way, how to carry yourself in a meeting, what what you do for follow-up. And she taught me all that. And things that she taught me 30 years ago, I still do today. Handwritten thank you notes. I mean, those seem old-fashioned, but they go far. Quick email, quick text, follow-up, right after a meeting, just life lessons that you can't open up a textbook and read. I mean, you can, but when you have somebody that you really respect telling you how to do something, you tend to learn it faster. Catching up to now, the world has changed in tech. So there's social media. How do I become efficient in my messaging and utilize social media? So some of my mentors are a lot younger and they give me ideas. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's the tech that I need to use, maybe it's the new microphone, or maybe it's the new camera, or how long of a podcast do I need to record, or how long of a video message do I record, and like what works and what doesn't work. And so I have younger mentors and I love them. And I feel younger when I talk to them. So it makes me feel great. And then I have older mentors. These are the guys in the twilight of their years, and they're basically giving me their wisdom on, hey, you should look at this and you should do that. And this is where you should be going. And they've lived the process already. And they're kind of sketching out, here's your next 5 to 7 years of what you should be doing to get ahead. So those are really performance type of mentors. And I have personal skills mentors, how to get more comfortable in public speaking, how to do a cold call. So I have those as spot mentors. Maybe I'll look at somebody in the industry on LinkedIn and say, hey, they really do that really well. And I want to ask them for a meeting and see if they can teach me a little bit of it on their skills. So I think you always have to evolve your mentors because you're always evolving.
Well, you're always evolving. Plus, you need mentors that are suitable for growth opportunities for yourself. I think that's precisely it. I can reflect on one of my previous mentors, and what's interesting with him is that he taught me a lot of soft skills about how to treat people with kindness, compassion, just how he was a clinician, and so that was one aspect, but just he used those skills no matter who you are within the organization. You could be the CEO or you could be a janitor, and he would treat them equally. But what was interesting with him is he had zero follow through. He had absolute no skills around follow through. And so it was kind of like sort of the thinking around, okay, I'm going to use what you have for soft skills, but when it comes to that, absolutely not. I'm going to do the complete opposite.
Well, maybe he mentored you to be a better person and follow up because of that, right? So it's funny. If I look at some of my mentors, some of them weren't perfect, but you filter. You filter for what you need, and you have to know what you need to learn, and you have to be open to learning, and you have to be open to giving your mentor feedback, like, hey, that worked, this didn't work. This made me feel this way. I don't understand what you did here. And so it can't be, and you have to give to your mentor too. So the feedback is their way of understanding what advice they gave you and how it resonated with you. And if you make it constantly a one-way mentorship, then it gets really boring for the mentor as well. Like they need to glean a little bit. They're doing something to help you. So do something in return to help them.
No, that's precisely right. I love that. So let's switch gears again into your current day-to-day and give us a little bit about the life of Lainie as it currently stands.
Oh gosh. Again, it's like evolution. So, I mean, the day's crazy because I look at, different CAD drawings, requests for proposals, highly technical documents, and designs to plan the next project. So I always have to get myself in this mindset, like a meditative mindset. So I get into my office, I play meditative music as my background music. And it sounds like it sounds silly, but it literally calms you down. And I have different days of the week that I do different things. So Mondays are not the most jazzy days for people going back to work. Like they're not so, no one wakes up and says, oh my God, it's Monday and I'm so happy to be at work. Like, woo, let's kill it today. So I try to do my business development hunting on Mondays because it energizes you, because you see like different things happening that you could be part of. And it's exciting if you can catch one. So that's like my fishing day. And then I use the tone of that day to set up my to-do list. And so every day I have a to-do list. And I plan my visits. I actually love to do on-site visits still and see customers. So I'll plan my calendars weeks in advance to travel and to see people, and to do lunch and learns and virtual sessions or in-person sessions. So I'm constantly busy. And before the day's over, it's like 6 o'clock. I see the sun setting. If sometimes like it's too late, but I realize, wow, I've been sitting at my desk for 8 hours. I ate like a Cheez-It, and I had a bottle of water. So those are not the really great days for me health wise, but I try to have my list of things to do. I try to take a break, whether it's walk around the block to clear my head, call a friend, follow up with some people just so I can get some relaxing of the mind, because it's really exhausting looking at technical documents all day long and having technical conversations and then staying happy and bubbly and fun for the rest of the day.
That's funny. I was talking to my manager today, and they said, what do you really like about this job? And I said, because I'm not bored, and I don't just have to talk to my engineers. I can talk to a vast array of different people every day, which is right up my alley. Because it's taxing. It's very taxing.
Yeah. I mean, I think just talking to people. I spend my day either on calls or on the phone. And when you're really interested in what people are saying, you listen and you process and respectfully you contribute to the conversation. So if you were just having, again, one method of that conversation was just to make a sale, then maybe it wouldn't be so taxing. But I tend to like listen to my friends and my colleagues and my clients and really learn about their lives, what they're dealing with, what the project is, the nuances of the project. And I invest my time into them and they invest their time into me. And I think when you listen hard, you hear things differently, and you can make a better decision on what you need to do for your client. So that's sometimes at the end of the day, it's exhausting. You don't want to talk to people. And I think that you have to have a routine on how to reset yourself so you can be good for what's after hours, for your family, for yourself, for your spouse, your partner, your pets, to make sure that you reset yourself accordingly.
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So we're nearing the end of our time, but I do want to ask you, I think one question that, if you were to speak to a young Lainie, what kind of words of wisdom would you have imparted on her, if you were to be, young Lainie's mentor, as an example?
Oh, I think you need to have, if I was talking to young Lainie, I would say, you have to have faith in yourself. You're a smart woman. You graduated a great school. You're energetic. You should listen to your voice and you should let people hear your voice, and explore the world a little bit more. So I think it's great. When I graduated in 91, I just hopped into work. And where my younger mentors, which I find so exhilarating talking to them, They're like, you know what? I'm taking 2 weeks off and I'm going to this country, or I'm doing this, or I'm going to take a leave of absence and explore this skill set. And they're living their life while continuing their career. And I think that I would tell young Lainie, don't just look at work as I have to work until the day of retirement. Look at work as a journey and fill in, when you can, some fun parts in your life, and enjoy the process.
I love that. It's all about journeying.
Journey.
Yeah, and what leads you down what paths, and it may be random, it may be focused, or it might be
We
because
also tell her to make money. I'm joking. Make a lot of money, Lainie.
that goes without saying. That goes without saying, right? All right, Lainie. Well, this was such a pleasure. We're just so tickled and grateful to have you. You are such a boss lady in so many different ways. So
it was a lot of fun.
I
hope to do it again. It was great seeing you.
Same as well. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
At STEM From, we are working towards making all STEM careers achievable regardless of your identity, background, or even access to resources. STEM From will introduce you to all things STEM, whether they be careers, research, tips and tricks, or even inspiration. Thanks all for watching and learning with us today, and don't ever forget to ask yourself, where do you want your journey to stem from? Bye, everyone.